Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Spearcast, a look inside SJSU sports with members of the Spear's editing staff. Before we get things started here today, I would like to wish health and safety to all of our listeners and to everyone during this unprecedented time that we're all going through. I am your host, Ryan Carlson, and I'm excited to introduce today's cast on this episode of fantastic Spear editors to join me today. And up first, we have Mr. Max Miller. Max, how you doing?
Good, how are you? And thanks for the sweet intro.
Of course. I'm doing great. Back home and in self-isolation like we all are. And like our other members are as well. We're going to bring up Derrick Owl right now. Derrick, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, Ryan, and it's great to hear from some of my writing brethren, Mr. Max Miller and Nick Romeo via satellite, or I guess via satellite, I could say, in San Jose. And I'm down in Salinas, California, where it's sunny, probably 65 degrees outside. So, yeah, let's get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I'm jealous. We also have Nick Romeo joining us today from up in the Bay Area as well. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Good. Well, thanks for joining me on this introductory episode. Of course, the inaugural episode of the Spearcast. We're all on the Spear at SJSU, and we got a lot to talk about today and in the weeks to come. So I hope you all, first off, are safe and healthy wherever you are joining me, and of course, listening. And tell the listeners what you all been up to during this time of self-isolation.
Well, I'll start because I guess I was introduced first. But I would say I've just kind of been sitting at home. I will say I've been much more lazy. I work at an ice rink, so I'm lucky enough to still have two days of work a week to just make sure that the ice doesn't melt. I can't skate, even though I'm on the hockey team, which is probably the hardest thing in this entire isolation. It's not really being able to do any high exertion physical activity like hockey or something. Other than that, it's just been writing for the Spear and trying to think of what to do next for content, as well as I'm lucky enough to still be able to see my girlfriend and her family and my family back up in my hometown of Pleasanton. But other than that, right now I'm just in San Jose, just playing video games, doing homework, and attempting to not miss sports that much.
Yeah, I bet that's tough with an ice rink tempting you at work to want to get out there and get skating again. But it's a tough time, and it's a good thing that you're able to work still. And a big shout out to those essential workers all over the place, all over the world, still going to work each and every day to keep us safe. So, Derrick, what have you been up to during this self-isolation time?
Well, Mr. Carlson, just trying to come up with new creative ideas for the Spear alongside with our team. But besides that, I actually got entertainment fix last weekend. I watched WrestleMania. I know you guys are probably I know our listeners our listenership has gone downhill after I said WrestleMania because nobody likes wrestling except for me. But yeah, it was good to just watch wrestling with my dad. I actually grew up, watching The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And this is where I bore you guys to death about professional wrestling. And I've watched a couple shows. I heard Tiger King's little out there, and that's all I'm going to say on that. I don't need to be the next Derrick Exotic or whatever that. But a quick shout out to all of our healthcare workers right now, whether they're in the Bay Area, Monterey Bay, it's San Diego County where Mr. Carlson is, or worldwide, for just being the heroes that they are. And we should thank them every day and thank grocery store workers, people that are working right now for essential businesses especially. So, yeah.
100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. And what about Mr. Nick Romeo? What have you been up to?
Hey, yeah, last but not least. Just laying low. Probably driving myself crazy, going crazy just like the rest of us are. There's not a whole lot we can do. We're all kind of in the same position, but we kind of feel like in our own little bubble, just not being able to communicate with the outside world. So it's great to be here with all of you, getting a chance to, interact with everybody else, under other people and stuff like that. So yeah, just trying to stay busy, watching a lot of podcasts, listening to a lot of podcasts, on YouTube and stuff like that. Just stuff to keep me busy, but yeah, just trying to kill time through this crazy time we're in.
Yeah, it sure is an unprecedented and unique time for everyone, and for some people, it's a scary and tough time with the virus affecting a ton of people, but no sports and isolated at home trying to find things to do as everything else is closed can be tough. It's hard to keep yourself proactive and busy, and this time also allots for lots of time on screens and social media. And speaking of which, the Spear just wrapped up their bracket for the Spartan Athlete of the Year, and much congratulations to Ruben Ibarra for getting the number one and the most votes and winning that competition, of course, via Twitter. So thoughts on that, gentlemen?
I'll go first. I think it was a good idea, and I'll give credit to our executive editor, Mr. Ernie Gonzalez, who I actually did not know there was a bracket happening. I know I should not be saying that, but I actually found out. I was messaging Antonia Malate of the women's golf team at San Jose State, and she's like, "Did you see this bracket on Twitter?" And I'm like, "No." And then I went on the Spear Twitter, and I'm like, "Oh wow, there's like all these athletes that have done remarkable things on and off their respective fields." And I kind of predicted it, that a non football player would win the prestigious award, just because I think we have so many fantastic programs at San Jose State. And Ruben, he's a fan favorite. I know Ryan and I have been. Where we were fortunate to call one of his games, the opening night against Santa Clara, where he hit a monster 3-run bomb to the Adobe sign in left center field. So yeah, but it was a remarkable thing to see, just all the engagement from our student athletes, and seeing Carly Rubick go at it. And I do wish we had a female portion of the category, and hopefully next school year, or maybe around this time, we could do it again. Because I just felt like for once, San Jose State athletics were actually being celebrated. And I think, that's always a good thing to see, like so much school spirit that we as journalists are trying to provide to you, the listeners, or the students that go to San Jose State.
Yeah, I guess I'll go next. I was supposed to cover two baseball games for the Spear this year. I was only able to cover one. The second game was supposed to be the weekend of the first, the very first cancellations, or the first week, full week of the cancellations of all the games when things were very much still up in the air. And the one game I did cover, it was probably the longest baseball game this year. It was a 4 hour and 2 minute game. But Ruben hit a very similar home run to the one you guys were talking about, Derrick and Ryan. It was a 3-run bomb to the Adobe sign in left center. And it was, the kid has power. And in talking talking to the coaching staff afterwards, they all just had high praise for him. And they said it's not like they didn't. The biggest quote I got of it was from the head coach was they didn't not expect him to be able to do this, but they weren't expecting him to be able to produce it at the kind of level he was. So I think Ruben is a well liked player, not only in the clubhouse by the coaching staff. Clearly, he's got some social media presence. And I mean, with the personality he has, and with the stats to back it up, I couldn't think of anybody better to win that bracket.
Yeah, most definitely. He's a very well liked player and an enjoyable teammate down in the dugout. And you're right, he does have power. He led the team with 3 home runs before the season was canceled. Of course, stands at 6'5", 290 pounds, and he's from Derrick Au's neck of the woods down in Watsonville, California.
Well, let me chime in here, Mr. Carlson. Sorry to cut you off. We are so Watsonville's about a 35-minute hop, skip, and a jump.
From Salinas.
Yeah, northwest of Salinas, so it's right near Santa Cruz area. But yeah, we're on the same vicinity, and I talked to Ruben actually on Instagram, and he's really appreciative of just getting this award, and he just wants to inspire kids from our neck of the woods, just like I wanted to. So yeah, it was really good to just chat with him on the side. And I agree with Max. He's a fan favorite. He gets the crowd going with his notorious Big music of Big Papa. So I could have picked a better candidate to be Spartan of the Year for this unprecedented spring semester.
Very well deserved. He led the team in 21 hits as well. And before the season was canceled, the Spartan baseball team stood at a 5-12 record. So not the best, but he was the most exciting player for sure with a 344 average on top of all that. So a very well deserved award and recognition for Ruben Ibarra, and props to Carly Patorf with the San Jose State women's soccer team. She was the runner-up, and I gotta say, if you were following the polls, they were extremely close towards the end. I mean, did you guys see that? How close they were?
Yeah, it was like a triple crown horse race. It was very thrilling to watch.
When I looked, it was 50-50, and I didn't know if Ernie, the guy Ernie, our executive editor, running the poll, could see the total amount of votes like split between the two of them, because according to Twitter, when you would vote, it would just said 50%. You couldn't see the specific number of votes. So I was very curious on what was going to happen, if it was going to be a tie and we're going to have to go to a tiebreaker, or if somebody was going to be able to pull ahead, and that's exactly what Ibarra did.
Right, and he started with about, I think at one point it was 58 to 42%, and then it got down to 50-50, like you said, with about an hour left. So it couldn't have been closer. Again, much congratulations to those two athletes. And the baseball team, again, not the best record, but the softball team was on quite a roll, and Max Miller was able to cover them quite a bit.
Yeah, I went to so we had two Silicon Valley Classic weekends, and I went to both of them. That was I think I went out of this total of 6 games that were scheduled. I went to 4 of them because the 5th and 6th games were canceled. Sorry, no, just the 6th game was canceled, and I went to 4 of the total games. I had to miss one Friday game, but I mean, I also covered one of their away games. I mean, the story of the season is they're hitting and pitching. We knew Janessa Ulegi, the reigning Mountain West pitcher of the year from 2019 for the softball team, was going to be good, but I don't think anybody saw stud freshman pitcher Shannon Haddad coming. I mean, she's at the season right now. She had 18 appearances with 8 starts. She was 11-3 with a exact 1 ERA, and with 69.2 innings pitched, she had 79 strikeouts. And she was followed closely. Right behind her was another star freshman, is Alona Sullivan, 1.05 ERA. She had 8 appearances and 33 innings pitched. She had 26 strikeouts. So I mean, going along with the usual cast of Ulegi and Bowman as well. I mean, with the hitting from basically the whole offense, power, situational hitting, and the pitching from freshmen to marquee people that have been there, the softball season was going terrific, and they were 21-5 when the season stopped. And the biggest bummer, in my opinion, was they were about to go against Washington University, who was 2nd in the nation. So we'll never know what could have happened. They got rained out, and that was the last possible game that could have been played. So that's the biggest bummer for me, is they didn't get to really see where they stacked up against a top 2 team, especially since the last couple of weeks they had been getting top 25 considerations.
Yeah, that was a highly anticipated matchup against Washington, and like you mentioned, they ended with a record of 21-5, and they were quite impressive. Something that most San Jose State fans maybe didn't see coming.
And if I can make one quick note here, I will say this: in the interview I had with Coach Turner right before the Washington game, is one thing he told me is they had lots of injuries. I know Haddad at the time was sick, and then I know in one of the 2 games, I forget who it was. One of them, I think it was Michaela Anglestad, I believe, got hit by a pitch, and she was going to be out for a while. So I mean, they were 21-5, and they had just been dealing with injuries the whole year, and just going back to I don't know if you guys know this, but Peter Turner guaranteed them making the top 45 tournament, like basically the playoffs for softball this year. And so with the start that they had and how they were playing, like Nick said, it was a big bummer not to see the potential to go far and possibly do something special in the NCAA softball D1 universe.
Yeah, no, they were quite impressive. You guys got to cover a lot of the softball games this season. Once again, they ended with a record of 21-5, and a bummer they weren't able to finish their season. And it's a bummer for all college athletes, and especially college seniors. It's a bummer that they didn't get to finish their senior season. And I mean, we'll wait and see what happens with eligibility and stuff but for the time being, the seasons have been canceled, and no sign of kicking them back up again. Does anybody want to touch on eligibility and what could come of that for seniors?
Well, I recently wrote an article for the Spear magazine, which is online, by the way, folks. That is not a cheap plug. That is officially published. So take a look and read through our article while we go through this quarantine together. But no, I really feel sorry for. Doesn't matter if it's San Jose State or not, just all senior student athletes, because to me, you always dream of getting that. That curtain call of waving your cap and having your family there with you during your last game. And it's unfortunate because there's so much unfinished business, I think, with from college basketball, with just all the top teams not getting a chance to do something special. I know Dayton was on cruise control basically this entire season, and they won't have a chance of actually being one of the first mid majors to win a national championship. And of course, we mentioned softball with our Spartans. They were climbing up the ranks, 21-5. And I mean, it's hard to see what happens next. I know the NCAA recently awarded relief for senior student athletes, and I was watching Sports Center yet last night, and University of Wisconsin's not going to be able to give relief to those student athletes. So I think it's just going to be a lot of a lot of chaos in terms of just student athletes that want to actually have the end point in their careers, because to me this came out of nowhere. I know there were warning signs that COVID-19 was here, but yeah, it just came out of nowhere. And I think there's going to be a lot of news as we head into the summer with just schools trying to help these guys out, just to give them a proper send off. And especially with going into college football, there's so much uncertainty. And I know the big schools like Alabama, LSU, Clemson, they can afford the hit if there's no college football played. But if San Jose State has no college football played, I don't know the economical ramifications of that to our school. So yeah, it's just a lot of unknown. And as humans, we always fear the unknown. So I think from my vantage point, I think you just have to wait and see, and just be more focused on, just being there for each other, because sports will come back. So
Yeah, Derek, and with eligibility, it's interesting to me because I know for a lot of the schools and with the spring students are going to get another year of eligibility. But like you said with the seniors, my question is I don't know if this is out yet or if this is something that is how is eligibility going to work if they're technically graduated? Can they still play even though they're graduated? Or is somebody, say for spring sport, let's say, something with the basketball tournament or, even softball, like the seniors on the softball team, like what's going to happen? Are they going to be able to play even though they're not considered a student? So that's something that I've got to look into, and maybe about possible NCAA pathways with this sort of eligibility issue.
well, that's a good question, Max. Personally, when I did my research, they announced it's funny, when I turned in my article, I turned it in a week before, and our fabulous editing team that's helped us out this semester, they actually I told them that the decision was going to happen last Monday, I believe. Yeah, March 30th. So they haven't. It's up to the schools for them to decide if they want to bring back student athletes. And my previous point, what I was making, is that you're going to see a lot of students transfer, because they don't have enough money in the bankroll to keep all these student athletes. And then you have all these incoming freshmen from different high schools coming in. So, we don't know what the roster sizes are going to be for the various sports. I know winter student athletes won't get the luxury of playing an extra year, but it's mainly affecting spring athletes. And like I said, we'll see. I mean, so much is up in the air. I wish I had answers to all the millions of questions that I know our listeners have, and I know just us as sports fans have, about what's going to be next for these student athletes. And how much ramifications is going to be for athletic departments anywhere. It's not just San Jose State. It's all the Power Five conferences, because there is no unlimited amount of money for all universities, because we will see how they're able to manage, try to make the student athletes that want to play happy, but also at the same time trying to manage your budget, and it's just a lot of unanswered questions that I think will probably get closer towards the fall semester, because they're just trying to learn about what's next with the pandemic going on as much as we are.
Yeah, I covered maybe 5 or 6 of their games as well, and you could just tell in most of those games that they were just in another class, like apart from their opponents. I mean, you go look at their schedule; they winning how many games that they did, uh, blowing the other team out, mercy ruling them. Their performance really speaks for themselves. They really were, a very deep team, pitching and hitting. Max touched on all of that. Like they just had a lot of really good players all over the place, and head coach Peter Turner never passed up an opportunity to talk about just how great everybody was all the way throughout his lineup. So yeah, that it's a bummer that they didn't get to finish their season and we didn't get to see what could have come from that. But wow, that was a really strong season for what they did have.
Yeah, that you guys both kind of touched on our next point, which is kind of an outlook on college sports for the foreseeable future. It seems like the underlying answer is kind of we'll wait and see, right? So there's a lot of unknowns right now, and there's a lot of things to be worked out for schools across the nation. So I guess we'll wait and see. But let's move on here to our one of our last topics. There's another Twitter poll going on concerning the San Jose State ice hockey team, which two of our terrific guests today are a part of, Nick Romeo and Max Miller. Would you guys like to enlighten us on what the poll is on Twitter?
Yeah, sure. It's a Twitter poll that's been posted by our hockey governing body, the ACHA, and they have set up a bracket that gets released every couple of days. They have a lot of teams that they cycle through, so they kind of release them, over time to kind of give themselves a lot of content to release. And yeah, they're putting teams up against each other, showing off the jerseys. And um, we just took down who did we play a lot, or who did they have us facing off against? I think it was Utah State. Yeah, I think it was Utah State, and our Spartans won. Yeah, we won with our gray jerseys, and we'll be moving on to the next round. So anyone that has a Twitter, be sure to go out and take a look at our jersey, see who we're playing next, and vote for your Spartans.
I think one thing that I was a little mad about, yeah, we won, but could they have picked a worse picture to like display our jerseys? Because like one thing that I really like about our jerseys is underrated is our pant shells. Like we have spears on the side of our legs on our pant shells, and they have a picture of a guy, Emmanuel Tona, Manny Tona. It's a great picture. It gets a good display of the logo and the color and the way it's designed, but you can't really see the side of his pants. And it's like, well, that's part of the jersey. Like it's not just the sweater; it's the whole look, the socks, everything. And I feel like you could display us a little better. I mean, we were what, Nick, 12 seed, I think, and we upset Utah State, and they have their cream colored jerseys. But I think we show a little bit more. And if you guys, our listeners, are out there, we'd love the support. I'll give you guys the handle right now. The Twitter handle for the vote is going to be at ACHA men's D and then the number 2. They've been doing polled Twitter jerseys for a couple weeks now. I know for all around the country. So we're in the West Division. So feel free to help us out and push our Spartans through.
Yeah, they probably could have picked a better picture that shows our whole jersey, but I like the fact that the picture still showed the spear on our shells, and at least they picked a picture of us wearing gray instead of our golds, which I think our grays look much better than. So we got a good jersey representation at least.
I agree. I think our grays are our best jersey.
Yeah, they do look pretty good out there on the ice. And again, go check that poll out on Twitter, along with all those other polls that are currently going on during this self-quarantine time. But those are all the topics for today. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Any last bits you'd like to get in here?
Well, Ryan, I just want to say, Max, I think you have found a second career in fashion, my friend. I think Adidas should be calling you up anytime soon. So,
why do you say that?
Because you were all in detail with the spear on the legs and the photos, and I'm like, dang, young Max should be working for Gucci or any of these fashion ones.
I will say this. Me and my friend Chase, we've spent countless hours anywhere from NHL 14 to now just custom designing made jerseys, especially with the new games. You can create your own team. And I will tell you, we've spent over an hour and a half designing 3 jerseys. And so I like to think that I can see a decent jersey when there is one. I know everybody has their own opinion, but I appreciate it.
Well, maybe I think that's our idea for our next podcast. Maybe best uniforms in college sports. So wink, wink.
We could even look at that just straight as an SJSU thing. Who has the best uniform in terms of SJSU club
Absolutely.
sports? We could look at NCAA sports. There's lots of things we can do.
Absolutely. But I just want to close it off with, like I said, like we all mentioned, we're thinking about people that have been affected by this horrendous virus, coronavirus, and we're thinking of everybody that's recovered, everybody that is currently diagnosed with it, and we also want to thank the healthcare workers everywhere who are really the real heroes. Will be remembered as the real heroes, along with grocery store workers and just everybody in general that have had to work through this unforeseen time. And it's a wrinkle in time indeed, but I know that if anything, we will get through this, and we will be talking about Max Miller and Nick Romeo scoring goals at Solar for America Ice, and Ryan and I will be announcing
I don't know
sounds
about me
wonderful,
scoring
Derek.
goals, and I think that's a good transition.
Yes.
Yeah, Nick, you'll be the one scoring the goals. I don't know about me, as I finished with 8 assists on the season and 0 goals. But I mean, I'll give my closing thoughts. I guess that was a transition to me. But overall, I think, Derek, you put it best there at the end. Is we just everybody needs to follow directions wherever you are, wherever our listeners are, and really just appreciate the healthcare workers, the nurses, the doctors, all the people working grocery, all the people that are still considered essential and really in places of high risk and putting really their life on the line, their health on the line in order to make sure that this gets beaten while still allowing us to live a somewhat normal life, even though nothing right now is normal. So just hearts go out to them, and I hope to see all of you again soon, and not on a call here, but in the Spear room at the ice rink, because all of us are there. I mean, something like that. I mean, Nick, I miss getting the boys together. I mean, we had that Zoom call the other day, but it's not the same waking up in the mornings, going to practice, the road trips, and I miss the team a lot. So thanks to everybody who's listening and really just listen to what everybody says, and we really appreciate all the healthcare workers out there.
Yeah, I agree, Max. It's great to get with all of you guys, and stay safe, and we can all beat this this tough time together. If we all just stick with it, I think we'll all be all right pretty soon.
Absolutely. And thank you again to all the healthcare workers currently putting their health and their families' health on the line to keep everybody safe during this time. And thank you to you guys for joining me on the inaugural Spearcast, episode 1. Keep your eyes on the Spears Twitter account for more SJSU sports updates and more content like this to come at the Spear SJSU. And that's all for now. Thanks again for joining us today. For Nick Romeo, Max Miller, Derrick Al, I'm Ryan Carlson. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you next time on the Spearcast.